let's pick up where we left off. So we were reading about Matt and a teen. A teen had taught Matt how to, what did he teach him how to do? Oh, it's when they found the fox in the trap, and Matt wanted to take it or kill it, and the teen said he couldn't because it belonged to the turtle. It was the sign of the turtle, so the turtle tribe. And Matt just didn't understand that. And he started doing some reflecting, and he realized that maybe things weren't going quite like they thought they were going to go in the beginning, but they were both learning from each other, and yeah, so things were going okay. He didn't really consider them friends, but they were learning from each other and becoming better because of each other. So let's pick up on chapter 14. Robinson Crusoe had come to an end. Matt had skipped more than half of it, choosing only the pages where there was plenty of action. Now he was sorry it had not lasted longer. The teen also seemed disappointed. "Too bad," he commented, copying one of Matt's frequent remarks. "I tell story to brothers. Every night I tell more story. They like." Delighted, Matt tried to picture the Indians sitting around the campfire at night, listening to a teen tell the story of Robinson Crusoe. He would give a good deal to hear a teen's version of it. Now suddenly he had an inspiration. "If they want more stories, I have lots of them," he exclaimed. He took his father's Bible from the shelf. Why hadn't he thought of this sooner? Why, there was Samson, David and Goliath, Joseph and his coat of many colors. "They're even better than Robinson Crusoe," he promised. It really was true. The ancient Bible stories were filled with adventure, and they were told straight out in simple language that didn't need skipping. He began with the story of Noah, how God warned Noah that a great flood was coming, how Noah built the ark and took inside his family and two of every kind of animal, how they all lived in the ark safely while it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, how Noah sent a dove out 3 times, and when it came back the 3rd time with a twig of olive in its beak, Noah knew that the flood was over. Here, Matt looked up to see a grin on a teen's face. "Beaver people tell story like that," he said. "Very old story. You want me to tell?" Matt waited curiously. "Very long time," the teen began, scowling as he tried to translate from his own tongue. "Before animal was great rain. Water came over all the land. One Indian go to very high hill, climb very high tree. Rain many days. Water come up to feet of Indian, but no more. Glasgoby bring 3 ducks to Indian. One day he let 1 duck go. It fly away and not come back. Another day he let other duck go. It not come back. Then last duck come back with mud in mouth. Indian no water go down. When water all gone, he come down from tree. He make grass, make bird and animal, make man and beaver. Man and beaver make all other Indians." "Golly," said Matt. "It's almost like the Bible story. Where did the Indians get it?" Etienne shrugged. "Very old story. Indians take long time to tell. I not know white man's words." "You told it fine. But who was this whatever you called him?" "Glasgoby, mighty hunter. Come from north. Very strong. He make wind blow, make thunder. He make all animal, make Indian." Matt was puzzled. He had heard that the Indians worshipped the Great Spirit. This Glasgoby did not sound like a great spirit. He sounded more like one of the heroes in the old folk tales his mother had told him when he was a child. He decided it would be impolite to ask more. He wondered if the Indians had many stories like that. And how could it be that here in the forest they had learned about the flood? Chapter 15. On the day of their greatest adventure, a teen had come without his dog, so there was no warning. Matt was in fine spirits that day because he had managed by a magnificent stroke of luck to hit a rabbit with his bow and arrow. It was the first time this had happened, and it was more the rabbit's doing than his own. The silly creature had just sat there and let him take careful aim. All the same, he was pleased with himself, and even more pleased that a teen had been there to see it. When the boys decided to visit the beaver dam again, Matt was unwilling to leave the rabbit behind in case some thieving animal should discover it. He was walking behind a teen, swinging the rabbit carelessly by the ears as a teen always did. When the Indian suddenly halted, his whole body tensed. Matt could see nothing unusual, and he had opened his mouth to speak. when a teen silenced him with a jerk of his hand. Then he heard a sound in the underbrush ahead. Not a rustle like a grouse or a snake. Not a trapped animal. This was a stirring of something moving slowly and heavily. He felt a cold prickle in his stomach. He stood beside a teen, his own muscles tight, scarcely breathing. A low bush bent sideways. Through the leaves a brown head thrust itself, bigger than that of a dog and shaggier. It was a small bear cub. Matt could see the little eyes peering at them curiously, the brown nose wrinkling in the strange smell of human boy. The little animal looked so comical that Matt almost laughed out loud. Psst, Matt, a teen warned under his breath. There was a crashing of bush and a low, snarling growl. An immense paw reached through the thicket and tumbled the cub over and out of sight. In its place loomed a huge brown shape. Bursting through the leaves was a head 3 times as big as the cub's. No curiosity in those small eyes, only an angry reddish gleam. Somehow, Matt had the sense not to run. He stood frozen on the path. A bear could overtake a running man in a few bounds, and this one was only 2 bounds away. The bear's head moved slowly from side to side. Its heavy body brushed aside the branches as though they were cobwebs. It swayed, shifting its weight from one foot to the other. Slowly, it rose on its hind legs. Matt could see the wicked, curving claws. Matt would never know why he acted as he did. He could not remember thinking at all, only staring with numb horror at the creature about to charge. Somehow, he did move. He swung the dead rabbit by its ears and hurled it straight at the bear's head. The tiny body struck the bear squarely on its nose. With a jerk of her head, the bear shook it off as though it were a buzzing mosquito. The rabbit flopped useless to the ground. The bear did not even bother to look down at it. She had been distracted for only an instant, but in that instant something flashed through the air. There was a sharp twang and the dull thud of a blow. Just between the eyes of the bear, the shaft of a teen's arrow quivered. As the waving forepaws began to lower, a second arrow struck just below the bear's shoulder. The great head shuddered and sank toward the ground with a wild yell. A teen sprang forward and thrust his knife deep just behind his first arrow. Still scarcely aware that he moved at all, Matt leaped after him. Jerking his own knife from his belt, he sank it into brown fur. His blow had been misplaced, but it was not needed. The bear's sides were heaving. The boy stood watching, and in a few moments it lay still. Matt stared down at the creature in horror. The fearsome yellow teeth were still barred in a snarl. Saliva and blood dribbled down from the open jaws. The little eyes that had glittered so savagely were filmed over. The long, sharp claws hung powerless, clotted with pawed-up earth. Now that there was nothing to fear, Matt felt his knees shaking. He hoped that a teen would not notice, and he managed a wide grin to hide his trembling. But a teen did not grin back. He stood over the bear, and he began to speak, slowly and solemnly, in his own tongue. He spoke for some time. "What were you saying?" Matt demanded, when the speaking was over. "I tell bear I do not want to kill," a teen answered. "Indian not kill she-bear with cub. I tell bear we did not come here to hunt." "But it might have killed us both." "Maybe. I ask bear to forgive that I must kill." "When I'm mighty thankful you did," Matt said stoutly. He was about to say that he had never been so scared in his life, but he thought better of it. The teen looked at him, and his solemnness suddenly dissolved in a grin. "You move quick," he said, "like Indian." Matt felt his cheeks turn red. "You killed him," he said honestly. Yet he knew that he had a part. He had given a teen just that instant in which to notch his arrow. A teen nudged the bear with his toe. "Small," he said, "just some fat, good for eat." Small? That monstrous creature? It certainly was too big for 2 boys to carry. It appeared that a teen had no intention of trying. "Belong squaw now," he said. "I go tell." "You mean a squaw is going to carry that heavy thing?" "Cut up meat, then carry. Squaw work," a teen answered. It was plain that he had done the man's work and was finished with it. The cub? Matt remembered now. It was nowhere in sight. A teen shook his head. "Let cub go," he said. "When Sigwan come again, him plenty big to eat." "Take rabbit," the teen reminded him. Matt looked with distaste at the rabbit, almost covered by the bear's heavy paw. The fur matted and bloody. He would rather not have touched it, but obediently he pulled it out. It was his dinner after all, and he knew that in a teen's world, everything that was killed must be used. The Indians did not kill for sport. When a teen had disappeared into the forest, Matt still stood standing down, looking down at the first bear he had ever seen. He felt resentful. A teen had killed the bear, of course. It was his by right. But Matt would have liked just a small share of that meat, or even one of those big claws to show his father. Then he remembered the Indian boy's tribute. He had moved fast, like an Indian. That would have to be share enough. All right, let's stop there for today.